Welcome and thanks for joining us on Hitting Home with Mike and Arif. Mike, it's good to see you. And
You too, Arif.
thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an interesting time and a long time since we actually talked about the basics, about the fundamentals. So
Yeah.
that's what we really wanted to go over with you on this show. Don't change that dial. It's important. And it's actually some really good, fresh content about
Yeah.
the beauty and the challenges of home ownership. So let's get right into
hmm
it. We've talked
Yeah.
about, we really built this show about around the idea of having a good team of people around you. And we've
hmm
typically talked about lawyers and accountants and bookkeepers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about actual home ownership and bring it right back to the basics. You've just gone through the process. You've had a great buying experience, and you went through the process of buying your home. Now you own it. Let's get into that, Mike. Tell us, what
Yes.
are we doing about ensuring that we enjoy the experience of home ownership for years to come?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things you should have, if you've listened to your realtor, is a binder or an online access to your inspection report. And that's your Bible for your house in terms of some of the projects that need to be done either immediately or down the road, or things you want to keep in check in owning a home. We don't get the lesson on how to run and maintain a home as a first time homeowner. The same way as you said, you get to your notifications with your car. Some of them are automated. Time to change your oil, time for this, time for that. We don't get that. We're just thrown to the wolves there on home ownership. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are good things to know, learning from other people's mistakes and lessons rather than your own trial and error. It's best to know these things up front. So
Good. So let's actually, that's a great way of phrasing this. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the car analogy. We're all on the road. We get a reminder on our dashboard that says you're running low on fuel, time to fuel
yeah,
up. You've got an oil change coming in 5,000 kilometers, put that in your calendar. We have a lot of things that are automated in our life. We have reminders on our phone. We've got schedules on our computer for our meetings
yeah,
ahead. And we also spend a lot of time planning and doing our due diligence around these things that used to be called vacations that people used to go on.
yeah. I
But
remember those. Yeah,
Yeah, remember those good old days?
yeah,
So here's the thing: is that we really want to let our audience know. We want to let you at home know that home ownership should be treated very similarly, and no differently. We want to have, and maybe there will be one day that automated app or that reminder or that smart home that tells us what the state and the health of our home is. But in the meantime, you and I should be making sure that we account for some of this in our daily routine. But it's not just as simple as that. We've actually got some neat ideas for you to think of on how to save money and how to make your life, how to make maintenance not burdensome, but actually proactive and a positive experience. So let's start with this, Mike. Let's start with the idea that says, don't wait until you need it because.
yeah. Well, because you're going to be in a state of panic when you need it, and if it's, say, a furnace or one of your systems that's going to eventually, with time, run its course and need replacing. Typically, you had it a couple of years ago. I remember your furnace broke down in the middle of the night. Is when it seems to happen. When you end up scrambling, calling around in panic, it doesn't always make for a good positive experience with that contractor. It's best to have done some research, talk to your new neighbors, find out who they've been using, talk to friends, talk to your realtor. Um, get that list of good people, qualified people in your region who can handle this, that, or the other. So when you have that problem, you're not calling in panic because that contractor knows your level of panic and may bill you accordingly. If
Well,
you've already established that contact with someone, chances are that that professional knows you, is expecting your call at some point. You're going to have a good relationship and a better experience.
exactly. I want to get a little bit relatable on this. Some of us are on social media. Some of us are on social media more than we should be. The
Mm,
fact of the matter is that every day you see somebody that comes up with looking for recommendation or ISO in search of, and
yeah.
usually in a panic. You're absolutely right. I need a new
hmm
furnace, or this happened in my life. But the other thing is, think about it, right? If and when your furnace goes and it's mid January, there's a good chance you're not doing a lot of research on and being discriminating or discerning about who you're going to choose as your technician of choice. It's cold. My family is freezing. People are unhappy. I'm going with whoever says they can come fastest.
It's the first person available.
First person
And
available.
yeah,
And quite respectfully, it's a good idea to have somebody who's trusted in that trade. And as you mentioned, Mike, two things that stood out so far that you mentioned is, typically speaking, when you buy a house, you're doing a home inspection. Typically, with the home inspection, you're getting a binder or report, and it's giving you an idea of what the state of repair is from the date that you bought the
yeah,
home. How old are the windows? There's nothing wrong with the furnace now, but anticipated in 2 to 3 years,
yeah.
you're going to
There's
go in.
good information and they're valuable information, and too many
Very,
people just stick that in a drawer and never look at it again.
yeah, absolutely. Very valuable information. The other thing is that if you live in a certain neighborhood, if you've got friends surrounding you, everybody who does landscaping or lawn care or snow removal, whatever, you ask your neighbors, who do you use? Who's good? And everybody will tell you.
Yep.
The key, Mike, the key, just as we sort of wrap out this segment, though, is don't wait till January to have a look at your furnace, because there's a good chance that the technicians are backed up. They're already doing
Oh,
repair. They've
that
already,
first really cold week.
yeah, they've already got along. It's kind of like changing your summer tires over to your winter tires. And then after the first snow falls, the wrong time to be doing it. You want to book
Yeah.
early and ahead. So, but the other thing is that there are peak seasons and there's slow seasons, right, Mike? And so
Hmm.
if you can get in a schedule with your technician, whether it's a plumber or an HVAC technician or whatever it may be, get them before the peak season. Chances are they're not as booked.
Yep.
Chances you're not going to pay a premium during an emergency call if you're getting your furnace looked at in August
Yeah.
and
They're going to
September.
take more time with you because they're not overbooked. It all works in your favor. And right now, given our climate, we're a little more attached to our homes and in sync with our homes, I want to believe. And going through this winter, maybe we'll be a little more mindful of some of those things that may be hidden on the surface, but they're just waiting to happen. Things you need to
Well,
know
so
and be
Mike,
prepared.
I want to frame this out, wrap it out. Basically, this segment, the punchline or the takeaway for this segment is, don't wait till you need it. It's always
No.
more expensive. You're never in control in that scenario. So be proactive. And this should be no difference. Just like going to the dentist for preventative dental maintenance, you don't want to be going in for a root canal unnecessarily. We got to go to break, Mike. But when we come back, you live in a condo, and I want to really ask you some questions, because I think that there's living in a condo has some real benefits to it that we can take into home ownership. So
Yep.
stay with Getting Home with Mike and Arif on Rogers TV. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Hitting Home with Mike and Arif. And Mike, in the first segment of this show, we were talking about planning and the importance of being proactive, and the challenges surrounding procrastination and delay. Now let's get into some of the financial elements. And you said just before we went to a break that you live in a condo, and the first thing that came to mind was, how does this compare to home ownership? There are some great qualities about living in a
Yeah.
condominium that we can actually use from your experience and offer to our new homeowners, or people
Yeah.
maybe who aren't even new. But why don't you tell us, what is one of the fundamental things about living in a condo that actually takes some of the stress off your life in terms of planning?
Well, some of the things, all of the things that need to be taken care of with a condo are identical to a home. They're structures that have a shelf life for their various elements. The nice thing about the condo is you're paying a monthly fee, and what that monthly fee gets for me is someone else is going to repair the roof when it needs repairing, replace the windows, any of the exterior structure of the home, the lawn, the maintenance, the pool, the gym, all of that stuff is maintained by the condo. But I'm the president of our condo board where I am, and we look every month. We scrutinize our numbers, our books, but we keep a reserve fund. So we're paying money collectively into a fund so that when the roof does need to be done, or when there is a structural failure of some sort in an older building, the money is there to deal with. So you're not panic and scrambled in middle of February for $2,000 to replace a furnace or something. So
So it is
that's
a
good
little bit.
discipline that we can take and use as freehold homeowners as well.
Yeah, let me get into that a little bit. I mean, you mentioned about not panic when the furnace goes, and I think that we were talking about furnaces a lot in the first segment because that is,
Mm,
when we get into winter and in January is the wrong time when your furnace fails.
that's the biggie, yeah, when it happens.
Here's the thing, though, that I wanted to get from the condo analogy, and that is we live our daily lives, we go to work, we do our job, we own our business, whatever it is that we do. But we don't have a choice when we're living in a condominium, or you don't have a choice but to not only pay your mortgage, but to pay your monthly maintenance fees and
Hmm.
your common element fees.
Yeah.
But what is that really all about? It's about the fact that you're not waiting for the furnace to fail. There's a schedule.
Hmm.
A document, a guiding document that the condo is governed by, theoretically, if it's a good
Hmm.
condominium, that says every season we're going to do this, and we need to know that our roof will last 10 years, and we're going to put aside X amount of money from every condo member to put into that reserve fund so that when it comes time to replace the roof, we do it. We don't
Yep.
panic at that moment and say, does anybody have a spare $10
Yeah.
million on them?
Yep.
Right.
And
So,
for sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So all I'm saying is there are a lot of people who say, well, I don't have time. I don't have that extra. Basically what I'm saying is we need to put money aside every single
Yeah.
month for the eventuality that we'll be replacing stuff. So if a furnace on average is going to last 10 years and it's on average $3,000 to $4,000, you need to be putting aside $300 a year, $400 a year to replace your furnace, not maintain it, just replace it. Same
Hmm.
thing with roof. If a roof average price on a roof now is between $7,000 and $10,000, you want to put aside theoretically 10% per year for the eventual replacement of that roof. On
Yeah.
and on and on. Windows, plumbing, appliances, dishwashers, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
they're going to fail. They're going to fail
Yep.
at some. You have the absolute right to go out and buy a used appliance if that's what you want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I highly recommend it. However, regardless of what you're going to choose to do, you need to be budgeting, and the reason is
Hmm.
that if you feel now that you don't have an extra $100 or a couple $100 a month to put aside, then imagine how you're going to feel when you don't have a choice but to replace that item.
Yeah.
And that's really the point of this segment, Mike, is about budgeting and the importance of home ownership. It's nice to dream about a nice home, just like it's nice to dream about going on vacation. But part of it comes with responsibility. And I wanted you to share with us really your experience and the knowledge that you have that can help condition a homeowner, whether it's a first time buyer or someone who's been in their home for a while who hasn't yet had to face that big nightmare, what we should be doing. So, as the president of a condo board, what are some of the things that you're doing?
Well, there again, you have a maintenance schedule and you have line items on there that are set for replacement or repair on a regular level. Within our condominium here, next week we just got a notice in the mail. They'll be coming around to check smoke detectors. I mean, a lot of these items, the difference with the condominium in your home is there's liabilities involved in the condominium. You're liable to yourself and your family, obviously, in your home, but you're not going to get sued if you're negligent. In the condo, you looking at possibly being sued. So that's one motivator, but it's just good common practice. Checking that smoke detector on a regular basis. We do it spring and fall in the condo. As a homeowner, you want to be checking. I mean, we're going to go into the third segment, talk about a whole bunch of items that you can just good tips and advice as a homeowner, things you should be watching and maintaining on a regular basis and being proactive on.
Well, Mike,
Um,
yeah, I think you bring up a good point, though. And we touched on it in the first segment, but I think it's worthy of talking about here in a little bit more depth because we didn't have a chance to get into it. If you do maintenance, there's a really good chance that you can prolong the life of that asset or that appliance or that item.
well, for
For
sure.
don't have to necessarily replace your windows. I don't know, I'm going to
No,
pull up every 10, 20 years. You don't have to do
no.
that. But if you take the time to go around your house with a checklist on a monthly or a seasonal basis, depending on what the item is, like check your sump pump so that if you ever do
Yeah.
get a good rain, you know that the sump pump's going to work when you start to take on some water. Go around your house, look at the exterior, look at the caulking. As a house shifts and settles, and as the elements attack, sort of hot, cold, and rain and all that kind of stuff, you're caulking around where your brick line or your siding line meets your window might peel away. If you scrape it out and maintain it, it might cost you a couple hours on a Saturday, and it might cost you $20, $30
Yeah.
in caulking, but it'll save you tens and tens of thousands of
It
dollars.
is. It is one of the number one items listed in an inspection report is failing caulking because it only lasts for a few years. It shrivels, it peels away. And windows, it's interesting. We've over the last 20 years or so, the vinyl clad windows are the latest and greatest things. There's, considered maintenance free, or at least less maintenance than wood frame. But what's interesting, you go down to Forest Hill in the Bridle Path and some of the multi-million dollar homes, look at their windows. They're not vinyl windows. They've got wood framed windows, but they also have contractors coming in on a regular basis to assure that those wood frames are maintained. They're painted because once the paint is gone and you've lost that barrier to moisture on those windows, that's when wood starts to rot. And I see that all too often. If anybody in this town who bought a house built 30 years or more ago, if they'd maintained their windows every year, and they'd all still be having the same original windows
Well,
that they
I,
had and they'd
I,
still be in good shape.
I think you raise a good point. We got to go to break. When we come back, I really do want to talk about that some more. I want you to enjoy the asset. You worked hard, you saved your down payment, you're making the payments, you have enough stress in your life. I want you to know that as a homeowner, if you take care of it, it will last you a lot longer and it'll actually cost you less. We got to go to break.
Yep.
When we get back from the break, Mike, let's pick up where we left off. Stay with
Yeah.
us.
A lot of items we can list here for everybody here to take away.
Good stuff. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Hitting Home with Mike and Arif, and we're talking about being proactive as a new homeowner or an existing homeowner. Some of the things it's best to be prepared ahead of time for rather than waiting for things to fail in your home. And we talked about the dynamics of that in the first and second segment. And I think this third segment, I had made a list of items here that seemed to make the top of that list of items that tend to fail or end up being very expensive. So if you see me turning over to the side, I'm just checking my list here. This time of year, one of the first items that comes up is shutting off those outside valves, the outside taps in the house. Shut them off from the inside, open the outside, let them drain. Too often people just shut them off on the outside. And it's not going to be that first day when it's just around zero when they freeze up. It's under pressure, water freezes at lower and lower temperatures. So when you get down to that -20 day in January or February and they burst, it's not slowly freezing over time. Those things literally go off like a bomb. The water will just suddenly hit that freezing point, expand. It's an amazing feat of physics here, and burst those pipes. And that's something you don't want to have happen at 2 o'clock in the morning and have your basement flood out. The filter on your furnace, change that in the fall and in the spring. Change those batteries in your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. It's a good time of year for that. And do that final walk around your house before the snow comes, just to see, make sure there's no new holes, no vent covers missing anywhere where animals are going to come in, because as soon as it starts getting cooler, they want to make your house their house. You'll end up with mice or squirrels if you've got little holes or vent covers that have been missing, ripped screens, anywhere you get those critters starting to come in.
Mike,
so these are good things to save money down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about some things there, and I think that they're actually they take a few minutes, but they will save you hours and hours and thousands of dollars. And a couple of things that came to mind though that you were talking about there was one, the furnace filter. Listen, remember this. Sometimes you go to some stores, furnace filters are $30 a piece. You don't need to have the Cadillac furnace filter. Your furnace needs to breathe. In order for your furnace to do its job and provide heat and clean air, it needs to breathe. End of story. So you need to have a good furnace filter. that's going to
Yeah,
get fine particulate matter out, but it doesn't need to be
and
$30.
it runs more efficiently
It
when it's
runs
not
more
plugged up.
efficiently. It will save you less on your energy. It won't strain the motor. It won't strain the device itself. And it will help you prolong the life of your furnace. Replacing
Yeah,
a furnace, thousands of dollars. Replacing a filter every 90 days is tens of
yeah.
dollars, right?
And some of the things I would tell people to focus on as new homeowners is you're raring to go. You want to do that big reno oftentimes when you come into a new home. I tell people, go through about 6 months, get a feel for the home before you make any big decisions on renos or basement rec rooms or anything else. Because typically, once you get comfortable in that home, your ideas are going to change about what you want. So spend those first few months in a new home, focusing on those items that are on that home inspection report, and then doing other things. Make your home more energy efficient through different things, improving things, lighting. There's so many different ways we can make our homes smart now and connected. A smart thermostat is an amazing investment, one of the best investments in that whole smart category you can make. I've been away on vacation and have changed the settings for heat and cool at home remotely. Smart door locks. I mean, you should be changing your locks when you move into a new house anyway, just for security's sake, because you don't know who that previous owner has handed out keys to in the past. But a smart lock system that's attached to Wi-Fi is so good. If you have got kids, they forget their keys or forget the code, you can let them in remotely. You have a record of who's coming and when they're coming and going. A great investment there. So spend your money and time improving your home, efficiency, upgrading it to the latest smart systems and that, and save the big ticket projects for later in the year.
Well, I'm going to talk about something, Mike, here, and
Sure.
we got out shortly, but here's a thought from me. I'm going to go a slightly different direction. I agree with everything that you're saying there, but
Hmm.
I want to also focus on the basics. Enjoying home ownership should be about building memories, cooking great dinners and meals, eating
Yeah.
with your loved ones, and I want people to spend their money on things that are valuable, important, and improve quality of life. What I
Yeah.
don't want to do is I don't want you to waste money. And so my thought for you is this: careful about the marketing out there. Everybody in business or everybody trying to sell a product is doing so for all the right reasons. And here's the thing: if you've got the disposable income, good for you. Make those choices. Do what you need to
Yeah.
do. Start always first with the basics, with the fundamentals. If your
Hmm.
furnace was good enough, if it wasn't broken, and it was producing, yes, maybe it's not the 99.999% highest efficiency furnace out there,
Yeah.
but if it's 98, you don't need to blow 3,000, 4,000, five
No.
thousand extra
Take a
dollars.
long time to recover that. Yeah.
Great is it'll take a long time to recover it. Put the time and energy into the item. If you loved it then, if it was good enough then, and if it was providing the utility or the function it was meant to do,
Hmm.
then you should still love it in 5 years old. Don't toss it out and be wasteful. Take care of things, maintain it, enjoy it, and then, as Mike said, put the money into things that matter most, that improve your quality of life. We got 1 minute, Mike. Final thoughts.
Okay.
1 minute.
Well, start building that list of people you may need and or will need sometime in the future for various things: furnace, HVAC repairs, landscape maintenance. You want a checklist of people that you know others have used and have vetted for you, rather than you learning on your dollar that they're good or not so good.
With
If
that,
if
we
you have a
gotta
pool,
go.
get your pool guy in there this time of year to. What's that,
Exactly.
Arif? Sorry.
Mike, though, it's been great. I love it. The takeaway: plan ahead, plan early, don't be disappointed, don't panic later down the road. We got to go. We'll see you next time
Yes.
on Home with Mike and RF.